I have learned that focus is vital. Focus is vital if you are to reach your goals in life. Focus is vital if you are to fulfill your calling and your purpose in life. Focus is vital if you want to live out your dreams in life. I have learned that when you are focused, that fear is not a factor. That when you are focused, that obstacles are not a factor. And that when you are focused, that doubt and unbelief has no room to creep into your life and serve as a hindrance or a distraction to you. I love the story of David and Goliath, and how when David's father sent him to go check on his brothers as they were preparing for a war against the Philistines, that David learned that his brothers and the men were sitting in fear because they were afraid of Goliath. They could not move forward because they were in fear of the giant Goliath. And so David heard the men talking about what Saul would give to the person who defeat Goliath. And here's little David. Hearing the conversation, he asked a question. He said, "What will the person or the man receive who defeat this uncircumcised Philistine?" Already, David focuses in check. He didn't ask, how tall is Goliath? He didn't ask, how big is his sword? He didn't ask, how many of his brothers on the front line to fight with him? He asked the question, what will the man receive who defeats this uncircumcised Philistine? See, David has already got a glimpse, he had already come into the knowledge of what the person was going to receive. He heard them when they said that the person who defeats this giant, Goliath, will receive riches from Saul. They will also receive exemption from taxes and duty from public service. And finally, they will receive Saul's daughter hand in marriage. See, that alone was great for David. David did not focus on Goliath. Instead, David began to focus on instantly the promise and not the process that he would have to go through to defeat Goliath. He focused on the rewards of what Saul had to offer and not the ramifications of what he would face in receiving those rewards. And most importantly, David focused on the victory and not the battle. He said, what will the man receive who defeats this uncircumcised Philistine? And because David was focused on the victory and not the battle, the rewards and not the ramification, the promise and not the process, he had already positioned himself to have everything and to accomplish everything that he set his mind to do. And you and I both know the story. He truly defeated Goliath. And he also received everything that Saul had promised. David didn't worry about the battle because he knew the battle belonged to God. And because the battle belonged to God and our victory is in God, David knew from the very beginning that he was victorious. He knew that victory was his for the keeping. And that's why David did not focus on the battle, because the battle belonged to God, but David focused on the victory. He did not focus on the ramifications because he knew that whatever he had to go through, that God was with him and God was for him. And so he focused on the reward, the light that was at the end of the tunnel. David didn't focus on the process because he knew that God had already gone before him to make the crooked places straight. And so David focused on the promise of what he would receive when he defeated Goliath. And so we are to be like David in all things, to keep our focus in the right place, to keep our focus in the right perspective, and to keep our focus on God. Because that's where the victory is. That's where the rewards are. That's where the promise of God lies, in him. If you want to accomplish anything in this life, and I've learned this and I'm still learning it, that I cannot focus on what nobody else is doing. I cannot focus on the neighbors. I cannot focus on nobody else's ministry. We can't focus on who shot John and why. We can't focus on a lot of foolishness and nonsense. We have to keep our minds and our eyes on God if we are to accomplish all that God has called us to do in this life and in our journey in life. If you are to make full proof of your ministry, you don't have time to worry about what another church is doing. You don't have time to worry about somebody else's ministry. You have to focus on what God has placed before you and what God has called you to do. You can't worry about how another person is living out their dreams. Focus on your dreams. Focus on your goals. We must be focused. As long as Peter kept his eyes on Jesus, as long as Peter was focused on Jesus, he was able to walk on the water of his fears, of doubt and unbelief, because he had his eyes on God. But the very moment that Peter took his eyes off God and began to focus on the storm, he lost sight of what was most important. And that's what will happen to you if you take your eyes off God for a split second. We can't afford to take our eyes off Jesus, because when we do, we lose focus of the most important things. And not only that, we lose focus of our dream and our purpose and our calling and our vision and our ministry and even our goals. Keep your eyes on God. Stay focused. If you are to accomplish even the things that you have set out to do in 2018, then you must remain focused. We are about to enter into February. Many of you have already lost focus because of the things that are distracting you. These things are distractions. Don't let nothing break your mode of concentration. Don't let nothing break your focus. Don't let nothing hinder you from keeping your eyes and your mind on Jesus. Paul said, this one thing I know, I'm forgetting those things that are behind, and I'm going to press forward, and I'm going to press towards the mark of a higher calling in Christ Jesus, because I am now focused on what's before me, not what's behind me. So I want to encourage you today. Don't let anything break your focus. Keep your mind and your eyes on God. Focus on the promise and not the process. The rewards and not the ramifications. And the victory and not the battle. God bless you, and stay focused.